pretty similar to what we've seen. You know, ground balls, backdoor sliders a little differently today in what he was doing, some slower breaking balls as opposed to some of the harder breaking balls, change-ups. Maybe the best mix we've seen out of him.
Bob, you got the one run early off Felix, but you stranded 5 in those first 2 innings.
Do you notice that?
How concerning was that to you at that time?
Very. I mean, when you have a guy like him in particular on the ropes, and usually early in the games when you have the best chance to put a crooked number up against him, it's important that you come through. And, you know, we run into an out in the first, and then we have bases loaded, nobody out in the second. You don't score, that can be demoralizing, you know, knowing that you had a guy like that on the ropes and you know, couldn't at least score a couple runs off him, give yourself a little room.
What message did you want to send to Kendall when you went out to visit in the 7th, and what did you think of that sequence and him being able to work out of that?
Yeah, that's a tough matchup for him, those 2 guys in a row. You know, if we go somewhere else, we at least get a pinch hitter at Smith. So, you know, as long as the ball was down for the most part and moving, even though those are 2 tough lefties, you know, he deserved to be in the game at that time. So, you know, Trumbo was his last guy, but, you know, for him to get both Seager and Smith were probably the key outs of the game.
What were your impressions of that play that he and Ike made that inning on the ball that Smith hit? Kendall kind of had to do some pretty fancy footwork.
He did, and had to stretch. I mean, it's probably the longest stride he's taken in his life, and, you know, you could tell he was, for a second, it got him a little bit. So he backed off and took a little time. You know, one, he had to get over there quick, too, and, you know, had to stretch like he did. So you could see he was tiring a little bit in that Trumbo at bat, but that was going to be his last guy, and we felt like that was a good matchup. So that's a key play in the game, no doubt.
You talk about your defense generally. Larry looked like he got handcuffed on a couple of those little floaters there in that one inning, and then Sogard's play at the end of the game.
Yeah, and it really even makes a terrific play on Miller to even get the ball over there leading off that inning. But you know what? You look at the errors and you look at the personnel that we have, and it doesn't match up, even though I'm not making excuses. We've made the errors. But we have guys like Sogard and Laurie and, you know, many guys in the outfield that can not only make the routine plays but make great plays.
Bob, when you had first and third and Reddick broke while Felix was still holding the ball, was that a missed sign or did he just go on his own?
He's got a green light there, but he's got to make sure he goes home. I'm not even sure they're going to throw through in that position, but you can't give him the opportunity to step off and make an out. So he just left a little too early.
Bob, it had been 7 years since Felix had lost a game here. What does this mean for your club to beat him? I mean, you talked about him so much and
right.
What a tough time this club has had against him over the years.
It feels good. I mean, especially here at home. I mean, he's just handed it to us here at home. And it's not like he pitched poorly today. You know, he didn't have his best stuff, and he wiggled out of a bunch of jams. But, you know, now he's 0-1 in the last one start that he have here when you look at stats.
Pomeranz has had a 1.37 ERA coming out of the pen. What has he meant to this struggling pen?
Yeah, he's been the key, I think, recently to the success we've had out of the pen. Mujica's been really good for us, too, and getting both of them towards the back end. You know, you want a lefty and you want a righty, and when you have a lefty that's used to facing righties, you don't have to get him out of there as soon as a right-hander gets up, and, you know, that was the case with Jackson. You know, we want him to go through Cano, and then we have Mujica ready for Cruz. But when you have a lefty starter that's used to looking at 8 righties in the lineup typically, you know he can get both the lefties and righties out, and he can give you, you know, 1+ or multiple innings.